Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We are so excited to have Erica Hardesty with us again. She is so amazing. And today's webinar is called From Panic to Power, which I'm very excited for as a mother of a child with anxiety. Super excited for this webinar for myself. So I'm going to do a quick introduction of Mission West Virginia and Miss Erica, and then I'm going to hand it over. Remember, we have the chat box. If you have any questions, you can put them in there. There is one social work CEU being offered for today. And just a reminder, if you do not receive your certificate, look in your junk mail folder or your spam for the ticket will come from Simple Cert. It will not come from Mission West Virginia. If you haven't received it in about a week, then shoot us an email to rwhite@missionwv.org. We'll post that later on, and we will be sure to get your certificate out to you. All right, so who is Mission West Virginia? Mission West Virginia is leading a statewide effort to promote positive futures for the youth of our state. So we work with families as they navigate the foster system. And we provide evidence-based life skills education to help teens envision and create positive futures. As a result of our work in putting kids first in collaboration within social services, school districts, private foster care, agencies, and other nonprofits, the future looks brighter for West Virginia. You can learn more about our programs at missionwv.org. So we do this through two primary programs. The first is Frameworks, and Frameworks provides support for those interested in foster care or kinship care to understand the system, find a placement agency, and prepare to make a meaningful difference in the life of a child. If you're interested in foster care or want to learn more about how to become a foster care and or an adoptive parent in West Virginia, you can speak with someone on the phone here at our office. You can call 866-CALL-MWV or 304-512-0555. You can also go to our website and request a packet of information from there. So the second program, which is sponsoring today's webinar, is the THINK program. It stands for Teaching Health Instead of Nagging Kids. THINK empowers teens to make positive life choices through education, life skills, and coaching. Our program is evidence-based and helps the students we work with navigate the social emotional pressures all teens face as they develop. This includes building healthy relationships and healthy choices around drugs and alcohol and pregnancy prevention. We deliver our program in partnership with schools in 20 counties. We are vetted by district leaders, teachers, and other school leaders who are trained to work with kids. The program's evidence-based curriculum has been shown to have a positive effect on preventing teen pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, or sexual health risk behaviors. Our educators are continually trained on the most up-to-date information on trauma, sexual health, and high-risk behaviors. Our management team does on-site observations of our educators regularly to ensure fidelity is being followed. We also administer pre- and post surveys, receive teacher feedback, hold teen focus groups, and site satisfaction surveys. So we know it takes a whole community to help teens envision and create positive futures. This is why we also provide resources and training to equip parents, families, and the individuals who support kids as they navigate their teen years. So that includes workshops and trainings like how to talk to youth about sensitive or difficult topics, hidden in plain sight, trauma, sexual assault prevention and consent, teen dating violence, and webinars that we're hosting today. Again, there will be social work CEUs. There will be 1 hour provided for today. Our provider number is 490-129, and we will repeat this information in just a little bit. Now, to introduce our speaker, listen, y'all, I love her. I love her so much for things like I shoot out an email and say, OMG, Erica, I really need a presentation. Could you please, because, it's just the end of the school year and we're busy, like whatever. And she writes back and says, oh, and I'm so happy. So thank you so much for being here today, for doing this presentation for us. Erica Hardesty is a school social worker for Cabell County Schools. She's president of the West Virginia School Social Workers Association and sits on the Family Support Center Advisory Board with Children's Home Society. With over a decade of experience working with children and adolescents, Hardesty has held various roles within the mental health community. She's a graduate of Marshall University with a Master of Arts in Mental Health Counseling and a Master of Social Work. Hardesty also holds a licensed graduate of social work in the state of West Virginia and has recently become a certified tobacco treatment specialist through the West Virginia University School of Dentistry Certified Tobacco Treatment Training Program. So let's get started. I'm going to stop sharing and hand this over. Thank you so much.
One day I will say no to you.
I will not complain because I deserve it.
All right, let me see if I can
get my. Is it working for you?
It's not. I think because I'm on a school computer, it may. What if I send it to you real fast?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
So sometimes where I'm on the school computer, it blocks us to do a couple of things. Couldn't imagine why, right?
Let me see. I think it just came through. Here we go. All right. Cool graphic. Hang on. Let me share.
I'm so sorry about that.
No worries whatsoever. Again, you're doing us all a huge favor, blessing today.
You know what? I don't remember it having an issue last year when we did it.
Either. Yay. All right, here we go.
So when Hillary asked me to speak, I was like, of course, because I would do anything for her. I really had this idea of doing panic to power in regards to anxiety, because I think that anxiety has just increasingly grown into a huge concern for a lot of us working with students or children just in general. So this panic to power is that when we often think about anxiety, we think of panic, right? We think of worry, and we often think of like not having any control. But what if we changed our mindset in having control, having power over our panic and our anxiety? And so with the recent weather that we've been having these last couple of months, for some reason, the storm just always came to mind because they're powerful. They come on suddenly sometimes without warning, or sometimes we know that it's going to happen, but then the storms happen for just a few minutes and then they leave. And so that kind of puts me in the mind of anxiety. And so let's travel together and let's figure out how we can take our power back from anxiety. So we're just going to go over some three major concepts today: the impact of anxiety and what that usually looks like, how changing our mindset is a powerful tool when we are working with students with anxiety. And we're going to go over, lastly, some strategies to help take control over anxiety. Now, I know there are numerous tools that we can use. I'm just going to go over some basic ones that I feel would be most useful both at home and at school. All right. So anxiety. Ugh, it's a buzzword I think that we've been hearing, and it's been increasing even more and more. I just read recently of 1 out of 3 students have suffered or have felt anxiety in their time in school. So what is anxiety? Well, we know that it's a bundle of emotions that upsets our ability to emotionally regulate. We know that it has that feeling of escalating out of control. We don't feel like we have control. I often put it in the mindset of like, especially when I'm talking with students, it's like that fear of the unknown. It's that fear that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to have control over the outcome or how to navigate that situation. So that's where that anxiety feeling comes from. And unfortunately, sometimes our mind plays tricks on us and we go into this, what I call, it's not a clinical term, but we spiral, right? We get a thought after a thought after a thought. And then before we know it, we are in this hole of what ifs and doom, this feeling of doom, the feeling of tension and worry. That is anxiety. In a research article that I read, found that at least like 70% of students felt like anxiety was a major problem for them. So with anxiety comes a lot of other different emotions. It comes with feeling overwhelmed. It has that fear component to it, and often leading our students to feel vulnerable because they're exposed to being vulnerable to not only other students in the classroom, but to their teachers, to their counselors. Anxiety is just this chain of negative thoughts happening over and over. And so we have this most powerful tool, our brain, and being able to change that. So let's learn how we can do that. So I want to think about anxiety existing on a continuum. And I really liked this picture because I felt like this kind of pictures anxiety. So we have this day in the life of like walking outside, the sun is shining, the birds are chirping, everything's fine. It's probably like what, 75, and there's a cool breeze in the air, and everything's fine. But then something happens, what we call a trigger, or we see this dark cloud coming and we think to ourselves, that doesn't look good. Or what if that is a rain cloud? Or what if that's a snow cloud or something to that effect? And then all of a sudden, that one thought triggers another one and it comes an even more darker cloud comes and then another one comes. But what that is our thoughts going and like, well, what if that's a rain cloud? Well, what if there's thunder after that? Well, what if it's lightning? Well, what if it rains for longer than 5 or 10 minutes? What's going to happen after that? That kind of puts me in the mind of the continuum. Every day we experience some form of anxiety, right? So it could be trying to find a parking spot in the parking lot when we're coming to work. It could be crossing the bridge and you see a police officer sitting there and you have that little bit of anxiety like, did he see that expired inspection sticker? And sure enough, he did. So a ticket later, so you have a little bit of anxiety. And then as the lights come on, you're like, oh no. So that's what I experienced last week, right? That was just a little bit of anxiety. So that's our everyday anxiety. But then as those dark clouds kind of grow and grow and grow, that kind of tends to be like our clinical depression, like our clinical disorders of anxiety, our GAD, our generalized anxiety disorders. These are the types that really impact our day to day function. Um, we have to keep in mind that we have to kind of reassure our students that every day you might experience a little bit of anxiety. It might be a pop quiz comes up. You might feel a little anxiety there, but it's going to pass. Just like that storm comes, that storm will happen, but it will pass. Things that we need to look for as clinicians or teachers or caregivers is that if that anxiety, if that storm doesn't pass and it's persisting, but it's happening more and more and more, to the point where we're having panic disorder or panic issues, and that's when we really maybe need to step in and get some further help. But this PowerPoint, we're really going to just kind of focus on that everyday anxiety, on how not to let that spiral and get out of control, and just do little interventions that we can use here and there to help our students. Um, One thing that we need to keep in mind is that sometimes our students will really focus on the intensity of their anxiety rather than the presence. And so, what that means is when we start to experience anxiety, having that feeling, some of our students may go, oh my gosh, they go from 0 to 100 real fast, right? Sometimes even done that. And I think we all might have experienced that from time to time. But instead of saying, I'm feeling anxious, or my tummy feels a little off. I wonder what happened, what's going on, or man, this test is making me nervous. We automatically jump to the intensity of it. It's like, oh my goodness, this is really bad, or I shouldn't have done this, or I didn't study. I'm going to fail. I'm going to have to repeat the sixth grade. You see how the spiral just quickly happens. So instead of going, oh, you have these really big emotions, just saying, I see that you're feeling anxious. Let's talk about this for a second. Let's process this for a little bit. All right, next, please. So, one of the shifts in mindset that I really like for us to start doing, I think just as a whole, as we're working with students, is that shift of anxiety is not who we are. We are not defined by our anxiety. So, a lot of times when we are introducing a student or we're talking about a student, we might say, well, this student has anxiety, or this student has an anxiety disorder, or this student has an IEP or a 504 or a SAT because they have anxiety. If we change that mindset and we change our language to say, this student feels anxious when, this student has identified they feel worried when, instead of being defined, because I don't think any of us like to be defined as that big emotion, right? Because anxiety is an emotion. It's just not who we are. We're defined by numerous things. I'm defined as a sister or a daughter or a friend. I'm not defined as Erica, the anxious social worker, right? So, if when we're shifting in our mindset and working with students or just children in general with anxiety, if bringing back that power can also mean this student is is talented in art and XYZ, they feel anxious when such and such happens. What can we do to put in place to help them feel less anxious? So those are one thing that was really powerful that kind of stuck with me, that I thought, okay, this is really something that we need to kind of change in our language. And I know that I myself would like to work in changing that language when we're working with students. All right. So, changing our mindset. So, when we think of a storm, right, we think, oh man, doom, right? Especially these last couple of doozy storms that we've had. So, when we think of that, I don't know, I automatically go to, oh my God, I hope our power doesn't go out because I can't live without electricity, or I can't live without the air conditioning, right? But if we start changing our mindset to say, okay, well, it's not thundering or lightning. Let's go play in the rain. Or, oh, this rain is going to bring some much needed water to the crops. Things like that is really going to help us in getting our power back with anxiety. We're more than just the emotion. And I think that's what we really need to keep in mind. That cognitive flexibility that we have, viewing the same situation in a different light. So when we're working with students, maybe in the classroom, or working with students maybe outside, in like a store or something like that, and they're experiencing anxiety, instead of always just going to, well, I guess we just need to remove them, or into and let them work by themselves, or let's throw some fidgets at them and that will help them. Kind of looking at the different situation and saying, let's have a conversation. Let's figure this out. How can we change our language? How can we change our mindset? Because that will be more powerful for our student than just kind of throwing some things at them. So our language will rub off on them too, and our mindset as well. Um, we want to make sure that they're not feeling trapped in a situation without an escape. This is going to be a great opportunity for us as adults to connect with our students. So, when we're changing that mindset, when we're changing that language around anxiety, they're going to see that, they're going to feel that. And then we're hoping that that too will change their mindset about anxiety. All right, so let's dig in into reframing anxiety. Um, a moderate amount of anxiety helps by creating motivation. So this was really interesting. Sorry. There is a mindset, or there was this story that was utilized like long ago about anxiety. So think about back in the years when we were hunter and gatherers and we were going out and we were hunting things. And so coming across like a mammoth, right? Or this big buffalo, that little bit of anxiety sparks. That little bit of anxiety comes up, and we're thinking, okay, what's going to happen here? Am I going to win or is the buffalo going to win? What happens is it creates that motivation within us to say, okay, I'm going to fight for this buffalo. That's kind of where in that fight or flight or freeze mode comes in when that little bit of anxiety comes up. And so back years ago, there was a discussion in an article that I read is that we use that anxiety for motivation to fight, to get our food that we needed to bring them back. I think that would be really great if we started shifting our mindset and using that as a motivation for our students. So when we have conversation with them, when they're saying, I'm feeling anxious about this test. I haven't studied. I haven't done. I don't know the material. I'm going to fail this test, which means I'm going to get a low grade, which means I'm going to fail my class. You see, again, we're that spiral kind of questions and the what ifs and all of that. But if we change that into a motivation type of intervention, we can say, I heard you say that you didn't study. How can we change that? How can we set time aside for you to study to be next time? So next time you are even more prepared. So changing that mindset, changing that into motivation. When we have a student who maybe doesn't want to sit in the lunchroom, changing that motivation and saying, I see that you really enjoy spending time with your friends outside during intramurals. How about we try about 5 minutes and then when interacting with your friends at lunch, and then when you're ready, or if you need some space, we'll go into another area. So just using that as a motivational tool instead of going in and saying, oh, yeah, you're feeling anxious in the lunchroom. Let's have you eat in the office. Motivating them just to take it a little step further. Okay. So, reframing our anxiety. When we feel anxious, we have feelings like fear, sadness, worry, anger. Those are all feelings that kind of create that anxiety for us. But what really that can allow us to do as adults or caregivers or people in the school is to allow us to connect with our students. So instead of saying, this student is feeling anxious and they're anxious all the time, we can change that language and saying, this is going to be a great few minutes for us to really improve on your skills. Let's practice your coping skill. Let's do this. Let's do that together. Let's connect with them. Um, I see that you did really great on your last test. What was the difference? Oh, you said that you didn't study. Well, you know what? Moving forward, let's carve out some time for you to study. What would that look like? And so, really working with them to be resilient, to have them perform on a higher level because we know that when they are anxious and they're in that fight, flight, or freeze mode, they're not performing their best and they're not even gathering the information. We want to optimize their mindset. We really want to push them to say that this anxiety is not a end all be all thing, but what it can be is a tool that we can utilize to even push you a little further to kind of expand your skills. So that's some students are going to be really responsive to this. They're going to respond really great to this. And some are going to be like, I don't think so. But I think that while we use our avenue to connect with our students, we'll see a difference in them uh, after some time. Okay. So reframing fear. So let's look at fear for a little bit. When we have anxiety, we have that, like I said earlier, that little bit of fear of the unknown, what's going to happen. So I love this picture because when we're talking about storms and all of that, you're going to have those some people that see the storm and they're going to go after it, right? And you're going to have some of us that see that storm and you become really fearful because we don't know what's going to happen. That fear of the unknown. We see some dark clouds, we start to spiral in our thinking and we're not sure what to do. It really triggers that fight or flight freeze response. And so we tend to avoid, right? We tend to avoid performing. So we see our kids who maybe are avoiding their task at hand. And so a lot of times we might say, oh, they have ADHD or they're ODD, which means like they're oppositional defiant. Or maybe not. Maybe they're just a little anxious because they're not sure what to do. How can we fix that? So instead of reframing in such a way of saying, oh, they are not doing anything, they're just avoiding. Let's reframe it to this is our signal to act. So, just kind of like these storm chasers, I think they're going in and they're going to act. They're going to chase the storm, they're going to take the pictures and things like that. This is our chance to get in there and figure out okay, how can we act? How can we help you move forward? We can also have that conversation about, you are hesitant. I see that you're hesitant to start your test. I hear you say that you're worried about getting a bad grade. Okay, so I'm connecting with them, I'm validating their feelings, I'm hearing what they're saying, and what we can do is change our mindset and really be like this is your way of being careful about your decisions. You want to be great, you want to have a good grade. So how can we prevent this from happening in the future? What would that look like? How can we work together to make sure that you are really doing well on that next test that comes up? Really bragging to them about their ability to take their time to really understand everything it is about the decision that they're about to make. So, having that anxiety of saying that they're avoidant or they shut down and they don't want to make any decisions or they don't want to act, we, as their adults, as their caregivers, as their safe people, we can change that language and we can change that mindset to be, I really like how you're taking some time to carefully think about what you're going to do next. So we're just changing that mindset, and that in turn will hopefully change our students' mindset too. So in that fear, it creates opportunity for change. Now, I don't think anything will ever get my mind to change about chasing a storm, but it might someone else, right? I might watch Twister enough to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to go after a storm. But what we can do is when we have these moments to connect with our students and we're validating what they're feeling, we're not dismissing it, but we're saying, I see you feel anxious about going outside. How about and when you became anxious, I saw you shut down and you walked away. Well, we know that we're not supposed to walk away. How can we change this for next time? When you start to feel such and such way, what can you do? How to us, to signal to us, to tell us, use that I feel statements that you might need some space, or what can I do to help you better? Having those moments to create change is really going to help our students succeed even more. Okay. So next will be reframing sadness. So when we have students who maybe experience anxiety really big, those big emotions, they may even feel sad because they're not sure how to experience those emotions. It can be demotivating for them to where after a while they're not going to want to do anything. We have to reassure our students that sadness is common. We all experience sadness, just like we experience joy, but it's not something that we stay in that sadness. Something might happen. We might hear a sad song or watch a sad movie or that we perceive to be sad. And then we have that feeling, but then it moves on. So just reassuring them that this feeling of sadness isn't going to last forever. Let's talk about it. Um, Being critical in the formation of compassion and empathy. I think this is really important because when we see students sad and they're processing with us, then we're really seeing that ability to them to formulate that compassion and empathy that they're really going to need later on in life. Again, Another thing is this is our way to be connected. Sometimes if a student is sad and they don't know how to reach out, this is our way to connect with them and say, your head is down. It looks like you feel sad. Is this right? Do you feel this way or do you feel something else? So you're opening those lines of communication. And again, some students are going to utilize this as a motivation for change, but some aren't. It's going to be our job as the safe adults to kind of help them navigate that. So you got to see on your paper. I can see that really upsets you. Let's have a conversation about how we can change that, how we can change what you did to prepare for this test and looking forward into the next one. So, again, these are all opportunities for us, I think, as key players in helping our students, changing our mindset and our language, which is also going to change theirs. Okay, so next, reframing worry. Now, sometimes I have a hard time doing this. So I don't want to proclaim myself as a worrywart, but sometimes I kind of take it overboard, right? And so, when we look at a student who is maybe stuck in that worry kind of feeling, we're seeing them procrastinate, right? The chain of negative, bad thoughts. And so, what we can do is I like taking the take into action. So, I don't know. I'm going to age myself quite a bit in this PowerPoint because of some of the references that I have later. But this one was that always sticks out with me with Sister Act, the woulda, coulda, shouldas. I don't if some of you know about that scene in the Sister Act. So you have the student that goes, well, I could have done this or I should have done that. And what if this happens? Well, what we can do is we can really take those what ifs, and it's one thing that we'll go into further in a strategy, but taking those what ifs into action. Well, what if I get a bad grade? Well, what if you do? Well, let's take the test and find out how well you did because not taking the test is going to give you a bad grade. So let's just take it and let's just try, right? The biggest thing that we can do as adults, they're safe adults, is really dig into why they're feeling like this. Why are they feeling this emotion? Um, Diving into the worry. So anxiety and worry, yes, they kind of go in hand, but also we can take the anxiety of like the physical aspect of it, of like the sweaty palms or the fast heartbeat, take that aside, and they worry, which kind of like goes into even deeper. Well, what is it that you're really worried about, and what does that look like? So, is it the worry about not scoring well on the test, or is it more worried about what's going to happen when they get home? Are they more anxious because they forgot their gym shoes, or is it more worried because they don't know what their parents or their caregivers are going to say when they get home because they've lost their shoes? Those are the opportunities that we can take as adults to have conversations with them, to connect with them. So when we are building on that and we're diving into the worry and we're not dismissing it, because I think sometimes we can get into the routine of the day, right? We've got to move, we've got the next appointment, we've got this, we've got that to do, we got the next meeting. We want to dismiss them and be like, so and so's avoiding gym again, just move on, just let them sit out there. What's going to happen? But if we really figure it, it's like, well, what are you so worried about? How can I help? Then we might find an even more underlying issue that we can help with, and that kind of alleviates some of that worry. Okay, so next we're going to reframing anger. So this is one that I think that we all experience, right? There's that anger. It really blocks our attention or our ability to perform. So we see a lot of times that kids, when they become anxious, that comes out of anger. You can see, and anxiety and depression are different, but we might often see them overlap in a student, and sometimes we might see depression come out as anger, right? And so that avoidance, we might see that defiance in there, but is it really defiance or is there a deeper issue going on? And so you have us utilizing our strategies to help the student that we can figure out, okay, where's this anger stemming from, and allowing them to again fuel and motivate them. So it just comes into reframing it. I'm keep using the test example because that's the one that just keeps coming to mind. So if you're mad about the test, then let's reframe it. Like, let's figure out what's going on and how can we do better. If you're worried, if you're angry because you missed the bus, well, let's talk about it and go through our steps. How can we change that so the next time you don't miss the bus? Um, oh, you're angry because you didn't make the sports team? Well, why don't we sit down here? Let's process about step by step and how can you change your behaviors next time so we have a better chance at meeting the sports team? Again, I think bottom line, it goes back to us as caregivers, as safe adults, to change our mindset about anxiety as well as our language, because then our students are going to hear that, they're going to see that, and they're really going to feel it, and then that in turn will change their language and their mindset. So I think the next section we've got is academics, anxiety, and attitude, right? So, like the perfect storm. So, perfect storm would be that it would come in, it would rain, maybe we'd have some nice couple thunders, and then it would leave, and we'd have a really pretty rainbow afterwards, right? Academic anxiety is very prevalent. I think even more so now than before. It impacts their learning by reducing the motivation to perform for our students. So academic anxiety kind of breaks into four areas. We have emotionality, task generated interference, study skills deficits, and worry. These are all achievement related situations. And so what that means is that when our students is exhibiting academic anxiety, that these four things, like, it will come out into their grades. So we figure out if a student is having poor academic performance, there could be a lot of different factors as to why. It could be home, it could be social, it could be emotional, it could be all kinds of things. But really, one possibility it could be is the academic anxiety. So, attitude. Our next thing is next would be the attitude. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I broke it down. Yeah, no, we're right. We're right. I got my notes mixed up. That's my bad. That's my bad, guys. Hang in there with me. Okay. So we break it into emotionality. These are the biological symptoms of anxiety when we're dealing with the academic part of it. Okay. So they're sitting in class, their heart starts beating really fast, they get sweaty palms, and they're thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm having a panic attack, right? We've all seen those kinds of students. We see those students that even before they go into class or before they even walk into the school, they just start breathing really fast and heavy and they just don't want to go in. We also see the task generated interference. So these are the students that are constantly checking the clock when the test is going on, or they're always asking to go to the bathroom. So we might chalk it up to like task avoidance, kind of, but these behaviors that they're doing is because they have that emotion and that anxiety, and they're not really sure what to do. So this is how I'm going to get my energy out, is I'm going to be moving, I'm going to be doing something. Okay, so the next one is the student skills deficit. So concerns with the current study methods. So this is where we went back into the last minute cram sessions. So I think we all experienced this in college, or at least I did. Those last 10 minutes or 30 minutes before class starts that you're studying for an exam, and then you get the test and you're like, I know absolutely nothing on this, right? If we're seeing a student who's really struggling with this, then helping them create a time management kind of skill of setting certain times aside to study may help them. I think we saw a lot of this when COVID came around, and we had a lot of reliance on them to self study, a lot of reliance on the iPad or the computer to study. And I don't know about you guys, but I can be on a webinar, or I could, be listening to something, and your mind goes a million miles an hour on all your grocery list for the next day. It's no different than kids. So when they are studying for a test or something, an assignment, their mind's going to be drifted off. I don't want to automatically jump to, oh, it's ADHD. It could just be that they're worried. It could be that their anxiety is creeping up because of other things that are coming on. So again, go back into that connecting with our students, having that conversation, and what the bottom line is. And so the last part is worry. And this is the prediction of failure. This is where I think we see a lot of eighth graders, we see a lot of high schoolers worrying about, are they going to graduate? Are they going to move on to the next grade? Right now, there's a lot of talk about summer school. Do I have to do summer school? How many classes do I have to take in summer school? So there's that constant talk and that constant worry that they're doing poor and there's going to be consequences for that. This is where we're going to see that avoidance come in, that after a while, after that worry, they're physically and emotionally drained. They're just going to avoid school altogether. And so then that leads into a whole nother issue of truancy and, all of those things. So could that just be, are they just worried and they're not sure what to do with an assignment? How can we break it down? All right, so the next part is, and again, this is another one where I dated myself, Twister, right? So when I was doing this PowerPoint, I thought strategies. I was like, what would be a great picture to put in strategies? I'm like, none other than Dorothy, right? I'm pretty sure Dorothy was the one that had the little ball that they went up into the tornado, right? So these are strategies. This is how we're going to figure out with this anxiety and help them, right? So we are the storm teachers. We're going in there with our students who have anxiety, and we're going in and we're going to give them all these little Dorothys to figure out what works best for them. Now, will all of them work for our students? Probably not. Maybe one or two. Let's hope. And again, there are ample amount of strategies that we can use. We can even take the ones that I've listed and kind of modify it to help the student. I think that's what the best part about having the strategies or having discussions about them is, how can we best tailor that to our students? So, okay. So next is disrupting those negative and self-defeating thoughts. And this can be really hard because sometimes they may not even tell us that they're having them. They're just in their minds. So what we're looking at is we want to take them to be more productive, more realistic thoughts. So instead of saying this work is hard, what we can do is we can say this work is challenging, but I can take it one step at a time. So talking to the student is like, I know that the math assignment was challenging, but I loved how you were able to take one step at a time to finally solve the problem. Let's try this one. Just finding those self-defeating statements that they're using and allowing us to change them for them a few times so they can see how it's being done, and then allowing them to do that as well. So our next one is create a plan or visualization chart on how you spend your day. Um, this pretty much sums up mine, except the exercise part of it. Like, I love to sleep, I love to eat, hardly do my chores, but I work a lot, and then I like to have fun. But even with students, even spending just a few minutes with them and saying, let's look at our day. Well, how much time do you spend on your phone at night? Or how many hours do you spend at school? How many hours are you spending? Just kind of breaking it down one thing at a time so they're not so overwhelmed. Creating a plan and visualization is also going to help in that like self-defeating or skills defeating aspect of academic anxiety. So breaking it down for them and but working with them and saying, okay, when you get home from 4 to 4:30, what would you rather work on? Would you rather work on English or would you rather work on math homework? Okay, English it is. So from 4:30 to 5, would you rather work on language or social studies? And so allowing them to be a part of that and seeing how that works may also help motivate them to complete it and to do it, which is a huge task in itself, but it allows that you're connecting with them, you're talking with them. Two, it sees them, it has a visualization of, okay, these are the different tasks that I can do, and checking them off can also help with that anxiety level. And also, if you have a student who has ADHD, can also help like marking it off one by one. So instead of seeing the whole picture, we're only looking at just little slithers of it. All right, so next, strategy we have is breath work. So we know that breathing is a huge skill. It's a huge asset to have and being able to do it. And this is something I always tell the kids that I work with, like, this is your superpower. This is the thing that you can do that will help you the most. And literally, no one will know that you're doing it, only you. And so they're like, really? Especially the younger kids, they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So it calms you down. And I think even as adults, we we take deep breaths all the time. So you have the box breathing. You have the 1, 2, 3, 4 up, and then the 1, 2, 3, 4 down across, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 down, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 across. You can do the finger one where you breathe in and breathe out, breathe in. So you can do all these things that work with best with your student. What we do know through research is that the breathing work is going to improve their attention and their ability to emotionally regulate. A study showed with college students, I believe it was Arkansas that I read, or Kansas. It was Kansas. So they did some a research study on Kansas college students, and what they did is they, for 5 days, they did 20 minutes worth of breathing work, and that significantly improved their performance and their executive functioning. So, which means their ability to learn and process and all of that. Well, oh my goodness, what if we applied that breathing work into our students now at all grade levels? What amazing work would that would do if we saw such high improvement in college students? Wouldn't we see so much in students as well? I always said that as a school social worker, it was always hard to kind of navigate working with students in the school schedule because it's so English, math, everything is so important for them to have. And I said, well, if you'll let me have them for at least 20 minutes once a week, I can guarantee you I can show you some improvement. And so that's with this breathing work. If we somehow incorporate it with our students, 20 minutes a day, or even if we broke it up, if we worked as a team, 5 minutes in this class, 5 minutes in that class, then we could see a lot of improvement in our students. We also know that research shows us that by incorporating just different kind of breathing work is going to lower levels of anxiety and depression and anger, which we already know those are three really big emotions that students have on a daily basis. And it also allows for a higher level of awareness because we're getting that oxygen to the brain and they're more alert and they're able to learn. Okay, so next. So moving your body. So this is one, and it's very interesting. When I was doing this, it was just kind of like things that happen. I don't know. I'm not one for running, but I'll go walking in the rain. I'm fine with that. But I saw this picture. I was like, how appropriate is this? So when we're moving our body, it's the release of some of the stress chemicals that are stored in our body. So over time, when we have anxiety, when we have anger, when we have all of these really strong negative emotions, we store them in our body. We store trauma in our body. We store memories in our body. We need a way to release those. So, moving your body, yoga, walking, jogging, encouraging your students to play sports, whatever kind of sports they enjoy, allowing them to move their body is going to help. I'm a huge advocate of recess. I think recess is really important, especially in our younger students, to get that energy moving. So because when they're back, when they come back and they're ready, and we get them transitioned back in the classroom, they're more alert, they're ready to learn. Now, I did after school for a couple of years and I loved having them play. And this is why, is because the things that we learned in our after school class, and I did a social emotional thing. So it was learning about being good friends and regulating our emotions. We were able to apply that on the playground. So when they're outside and they're playing, do we see anger? Absolutely. Do we see sadness? Absolutely. So that was a great time for us to really engage and say, I see you crying. Do you feel sad? And they're like, yeah, I feel sad. Can you tell me why you feel sad? And so then we're having that conversation. Well, what's one coping skill we learned and how to handle our sadness? Well, I can go and use an I feel statement. Like, absolutely. Now, is that going to work with high school students? No, it's not. But allowing them time to move their body, be it gym class or encouraging them to engage in a sport, is really going to help them overall and long term manage those big emotions. Okay, just have a few more. Hang in there with me. So the what if list, this is what that I really love and that I had mentioned earlier. So when we get into the what if list, what this is what if you change it to the to-do list? So I am a really big person that I go, well, what if this happens? Well, what if I get there and this happens? Well, you're right. What if it happens? What are we going to do about it? So if we see a student start in the what ifs, that's going to be a great red flag for us to say, let's sit down, let's make a to do list. So write out all of your what ifs and then let's change them into action plans. Let's put them into action. So, what this does is not only does it help you control your thoughts and you kind of get them out on paper and you kind of see on hand what it is, but it also is going to improve your productivity. So, instead of us having these what ifs, which then buries into our avoidance, which buries into the anxiety of I'm not going to be able to get anything done, or I'm going to procrastinate and wait until the last minute to do it. I have this list of action steps or action items that I'm going to do. And so for me, I think this is going to be a really big challenge for me personally to do, but I'm really excited to start it. And I think that if we sit down with our students or the kids that we're working with to try this, I think that we can see that once they get it out and able to process it, a lot of these what ifs are going to be scratched off and we're going to see more productive in their action steps. And it's going to be really interesting to see what they do in those action steps. All right. And so I think the next, oh, this is my favorite one. So asking those right questions. So, a lot of times when someone is anxious or sad or angry, I think our first common response is, well, you just need to calm down, right? That's our first go to. And you have never ever seen a person go, when they're completely dysregulated, go, you're absolutely right. I do need to calm down. Thank you for reminding me. And they sit down, they take a deep breath, and they're ready to go and ready to process the whole situation. In my years of working with children and adolescents who are dysregulated, usually that never has happened to me. If that has happened to you, please share. I'd love to know. But what we can learn is asking the right questions, right? So when we go up to a student who may be experiencing anxiety or going into that spiral of like what if questions, we can go and we can sit with them and say, how can I help? And it may just be, no, you can't help me. Okay, I can sit here and listen. Or how does it feel if I sit here with you for just a few minutes? What would this sound good if we just went for a walk around the building? We don't have to talk, but we can just walk. And so just offering these types of acts to do or just how you word them, I always say it's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it. So if asking to say, how does this sound? We just go for a walk around the building. And then when we come back and you're ready to talk, that's fine. I'm ready to listen. But if you need a few more minutes, that's fine too. So, what I'm doing is I'm connecting with the student. I'm allowing them to move their body. I'm allowing them to kind of get out of the situation and I'm allowing them, if they want to talk, they can, but I'm not pressuring them. I'm not telling them, oh, no, you have to talk to me because we all know they're going to shut down and they're not going to do that. But I'm opening those conversation windows for them. So those are some things to think about and applying. All right, so next, eating clean. We know that eating clean and healthier is going to improve our brain function. It's fuel for our brain. But the one thing that I want to do is don't make big jumps. Don't go, that's it. We're changing your diet. We're just going to eat clean. It's unrealistic. Let's make slow changes. They see us, I think sometimes than we see them. So if we start making slow changes and are successful at that, they might too. So that's just one of the strategies that is used. And I think those are just kind of universal that we all know. The next is sleep. So sleep is really important, and I've done some self-care presentations, and I go over sleep. And this is what I say. Sleep is going to be different for everyone, the amount of sleep that you need. So, one person may only need 5 hours and it's perfectly fine. Another person may need 6 or 7. What does sleep look like for you? How much do you need to be productive the next day? I know for myself, I'm going to need at least 6 or 7 hours of good sleep, or I'm not going to be a good Erica the next day. Because we know that if we go without sleep, sleep deprivation leads to a suppressed immune system, which means that we have see kids that are staying out of school, they're not coming to school, they're staying in bed. It impacts their brain and how they learn. So if we are sleep deprived, if we haven't gotten enough, we're not learning in school, we're not retaining that information. We also know that the blood cortisol levels rise, which means it's difficult in managing those emotions. I don't know about you, but I know that if I don't have a lot of sleep, I'm irritable, right? Which irritable leads to a short fuse, which leads to anger. Like it just a whole different thing. So, what do we need to do to help our students be successful into sleeping? Well, first off, turn the electronics off, put them in another room, do something with them. Having a scheduled routine at bedtime also helps. So, we know Erica likes her little snack right before bed. Then she takes her medicine and then she goes to bed. She goes and scrolls through Facebook and then she turns her phone off and then she goes to bed. That is my nightly routine. I know that that is what works for me. I know that I need at least 6 or 7 hours of sleep so I can be productive. I knew that when I wasn't doing that, when I didn't have a set routine and I was waking up throughout the middle of the night thinking of things that I needed to do, the next morning I wasn't productive. I was groggy. I was irritable. I was lashing out. It's the same for our students as well. So sleep is really crucial and important. All right, and so the next one, prepare. So the one thing that we can do, especially helping with our students to prepare, is being able to prepare them for the what ifs that come up. So some of them, are we going to be able to address all of them? No, we're not. But can we address some of them? Absolutely. So especially if we have a student who, or a child that we're working with that may have difficulty in like transitioning, well, what would that look like if we started preparing? So let's take a few minutes to kind of role play that. I think role play is a huge tool that we as adults can use with our kids. Let's kind of figure out what that looks like, and so navigating the trials of that transition. The fewer unknowns that our kids can face, the better, the more control that they feel in that. And bottom line, anxiety stems from that fear of the unknown and that lack of control that we have for the outcome. So if we can help them prepare with any of that, we can. Okay, so then I'm going to be mindful of the time. The next one, okay, relationships, bottom line, I've preached it all day long. Relationships, our connections are really important. So go find someone to go walk in the rain with and laugh. Respect and acceptance feels good, not only for us as adults, but it does for the kids too. See them, hear them, validate them. The greatest predictors of academic success, and there are numerous research articles about it, is relationships. They are key. So not only as adults do we need healthy relationships, the kids do as well, and we can be that safe adult for them. All right. So that's it. Never lose hope. The storm is going to pass. Reassure that anxiety is only a short storm that will move on. If you guys ever need anything, please reach out. Thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
You are awesome. Always so helpful. And this was great. Look at all your hearts. I want to send hearts too. I love it.
I had so much anxiety doing this.
Well, now you know the steps you need to take.
Now I'm going to go eat and take a nap.
Awesome. 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 Thank you so much. Is it okay if we share the PowerPoint? Is that
Absolutely.
or no?
Absolutely.
Okay. We will do that. I'm sure someone has asked. Um, great. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Be looking for your certificate um through the next week. Um, and that's it.
All right. Take
Erica, have a
care.
happy summer. Happy almost end of the school year.
Yes,
We're
only a week and a half
less
left
than
for
a
me.
week. Yeah,
Yeah.
a week and a half for you. Also,
Yeah.
that's what I was telling my daughter. I'm like, this is your last Thursday. We can do this.
Yes.
She was messaging this week. Can you come pick me up? And I'm like, you've got a week of school. You can do this. It's okay.
My nephew did the same thing. I was like, "Your mom purposefully did not put me on the blue card because she knew that I would come and get you."
Mhm. Yes. Mhm. Yes, yes. All right. Well, I
All
think we're
right.
good.
Okay,
I'll be
great.
in touch with you soon though, and if you need anything from me,
Thank
let
you
me
so
know,
much.
please. Thank
Appreciate you.
you.
Bye.
I appreciate you. Bye-bye. Everybody have a good evening.